Hey, everybody. How's it going out there?
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Julie.
Welcome, everyone.
Well, we're back in another Lansing Marketing Hackers, and we just want to slightly start it off real quickly because we want to get to our panel. But once again, I'm Paul Schmidt. I'm the owner and creative video strategist for Introduce Multimedia. And we do video storytelling, live streaming, and podcasting for nonprofit organizations and some socially responsible small businesses. And over to you, Julie.
Yeah. Hey, Paul. Good to see you. I'm Julie Holton. I am the owner and principal strategist of M Connections Marketing Agency. We are a full service marketing agency based out of Lansing. And not with us today, but with us in spirit is Chad Muntz, our other host for Lansing Marketing Hackers. Chad is with Nextar Media Group, which is part of WLNS and their digital media team. And of course, Anne, we are so glad to have you with us today. And with Symposia Labs.
Yeah,
so my sponsor.
So my name is Anne. I am with Symposia Labs. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer over at Symposia Labs and one of our many strategists. And at Symposia, we build marketing ecosystems and help your marketing system grow, to help your organization grow. So that's a little bit of it. We're really excited to sponsor this. So
yeah, thank you so much for sponsoring. We love your team at Symposia. Love having you a part of this event, and love that all of you have joined us for today's event, talking about events. I mean, what a year this has been. The last 12 plus months. Those who work in the event industry or are a part of events know that everything has been turned upside down because of COVID-19. And so today I'm going to stop talking. Paul and Ann are going to stop talking. We're going to bring in a whole crew, a whole panel of experts from the events industry so that we can hear from them, especially guys right now with the COVID numbers in Michigan seeing a spike. I know there's been a lot of back and forth on whether events will be in person as soon as this summer, or will it be fall, or who knows? We're about to find out. So I want to first introduce Ashlee Willis, who's going to be moderating our panel today. Ashlee is the founder and CEO of Michigan Premier Events. You've probably seen Ashlee. You probably recognize her name and her company name because they are behind the scenes on a lot of events throughout Michigan, focusing Lansing, Grand Rapids, and Detroit. Ashlee is also very well known for her just community leadership here in the Lansing area. So Ashlee, we are so glad to have you moderating today's panel. I'm going to pass it over to you to kick things off.
Yeah, well, thank you, Anne, Julie, and Paul, for having me, and thank you for putting together, this topic. I think it's really critical during this time. It's really important. There's no question that the year has changed in the way we look at events. The meeting and events industry really adapted quickly to shift, in person to virtual events to a mix of hybrid events that we're starting to see now. And so during our discussion, we're going to look at the shift in strategy for events and planning and the impact the variety of vendors, venues, and more are going through right now. And so again, my name is Ashlee Willis. I'm the owner of Michigan Premier Events. So we are basically an event management company for associations and corporations. And so we're more of the logistics side when it comes to hosting events. And so our panelists today includes some well-known experts that are here in the area who are, right now going through events, and they're just going to talk to us about how they're innovating, creating, and what they see that the future will hold for events and meetings. And so our panelist includes Phebeit Ingram with Ingram-Eleven Events Group, DJ Rod Carpenter with HotBeats Entertainment, Tracey Spaulding with Cold Box Films, Stephanie Wohlfert with the Greater Lansing Convention and Visitors Bureau. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for being a part of the panelists today. And so I want to first take a few minutes for us to just take 15 seconds and tell us a little about yourselves and about your company. So first we'll start off with Phebeit.
Hi, I'm Phebeit with 1111 Events. I'm located at 610 Elmwood Road in Lansing, Michigan. I have a warehouse full of inventory because I am an event planner and a wedding coordinator. And I specialize in premium draping for transforming event spaces.
We have Rod Carpenter.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Rod Carpenter, owner of HotBeats Entertainment. It's been an awesome 10 years, and my job is to entertain and create memories for weddings, events, corporate to personal. That's what I'm here for. Rod Carpenter, HotBeats Entertainment.
Wonderful. We have Tracey.
Hi, everyone. I am Tracey Spaulding. I'm a writer and producer over at Cold Box Films, which is a commercial video production company where we help companies find the best way to share their stories and message through video content. And this year, we've also focused a lot on helping companies with virtual production of virtual events. So whether that's live streaming or shooting a lot of pre-recorded content and just guiding them through that process. And then lastly, another thing we added this year was this space that I'm sitting in. We also manage the Lansing studio, which is a rentable studio space that is often used by photographers, videographers, but also great for micro events. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Tracey. And then we have Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Wohlfert, and I'm with the Greater Lansing Convention and Visitors Bureau. And basically, we bring in meetings and events to the Greater Lansing area, encourage visitors to come here and just spend lots of money in our restaurants and shops and museums and just enjoy everything that Lansing has to offer.
Wonderful. And so I'm going to start off with this first question with you, Stephanie. What are you seeing in the meetings and program industry? Are they becoming more hybrid, hosted outside? What are you seeing right now?
Yeah. So definitely hybrid is the hottest word right now, and certainly what we're encouraging. Meeting experts have said from time, over the last several months that hybrid meetings are going to be what brings the hospitality industry back. I don't think it's any secret that the hotel industry has absolutely been crushed. So we are actually looking forward to hybrid meetings because instead of nothing in our hotels, it's giving us something in our hotels. And the hotels are ready. There's no doubt that we can host meetings and events safely. Right now, the state of Michigan can only host up to 25 people indoors per the executive orders that are out there. So we're hoping that come the 19th that's extended a little bit, but we're ready. But definitely hybrid meetings are the way that people are going. That way that people that feel comfortable and want to go in person and network and have the traditional meeting has the opportunity to do so. But then those that still feel comfortable from attending virtually, from their home, the comfort of their home, they have that option too. Now that the weather is getting warmer, we're seeing more people wanting to be outside too. So we're getting lots of hits on our website for people looking for that unique meeting space that's outdoors too, for the venues that have outdoor meeting space and tents and patios and things like that.
Of our 4 seasons, and so you're going from winter to fall, or winter, spring, summer, and fall. And so with that, with the weather getting warmer now, Phebeit, are you seeing more weddings happening? What is the wedding, industry is looking like right now? What did you see when it first started to now? What does that look like?
Yes, when COVID first hit, the event industry, as far as my business is concerned, came to a complete halt. Everything was postponed. Everything was rescheduled. And now that we're in 2021, my calendar is super, super full because all of the postponed events came to 2021. But there's a halt kind of coming again because our numbers are still at 25. So we have to be innovative and thinking of new ways to transform spaces. So traditional spaces like hotels and venues, we're now transforming living room spaces or barns. Barns have always been big, but we're transforming more outdoor spaces, draping tents. So people are still wanting to celebrate and get married, but they're micro weddings now. And we're concentrating more on the details, they're not spending money for a 300-person wedding now, but because it's sized down to 25, or if it's an outdoor event, maybe 50 to 100 people, socially distanced and safe. We're concentrating on creating the details about the event, making those special events more detailed oriented. Maybe they have custom menus instead of on paper. They're now done in acrylic. So we're still being able to be creative and allow people to have their dream weddings. It's just changed so much from a traditional look.
Absolutely. And Rod, you are one of the well-known wedding DJs. What are you, being in the industry, what are you seeing as well within your industry?
Well, I'll have to piggyback with Phebeit about weddings, how everything just stopped. Everything stopped, and we had to make do with what happened, and that's a whole nother discussion. But what I'm seeing now is more virtual events, a lot smaller events, the 25-person events. They're happening with the DJ being more distant, and I guess the goal is to be budget friendly. The brides and grooms and event, they know what you're going through, what you've dealt with through the year, and what to expect this year. But I guess the vision being, okay, I understand that the budget-friendly brides and grooms will be they'll be affected, I'll be affected, and how do we make this work? I mean, there's so many different things that happen to the QR code. Like the QR code is my best friend, being able to put those on tables, being able to have those with it be a contactless, event. The technology has just totally changed in a good way if you choose to pivot to be able to do those things. Some kind of went against it and chose not to, but it has been a dream come true to be safe, distant, and still being able to connect with those people, because my job was to be fully connected with every event, and that changed. So do you complain? Do you wait? Do you not? Do you change your model? That's how I feel about it.
Talking about the QR code technology, Tracey, at Cold Box Films, what have you seen with events as well? I know you guys have done some virtual events. You guys are still doing video production. Tell us a little bit about what your company is seeing right now.
Absolutely. And I apologize because there's a little bit of construction going on. So if you hear some background noise, just bear with me. But, when the pandemic first started and companies were coming to us, their biggest concern was, if we go virtual, how does that affect the impact of the event? Because you have to remember, some of these are nonprofit companies that have annual events where they raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is vital to their funding for the year. Or it's something like an association that's putting on an award ceremony where this is their one time a year that they could have a powerful touch point with their membership and ensure that those renewals happen. So these events are really important to these organizations. And so what we really focused on was taking what we understood about what makes impactful stories and just what's entertaining, and helping companies infuse that more into their events. And so what that looked like was we really wanted to make sure we invested in the right software to offer them a platform to host these events that could get them off of Zoom and have much more customizable options. And then that also looked like really helping them with their programming and figuring out, okay, what is live, what can be pre-recorded, should we pre-record the entire thing and then just cue that to be live so we have more variety. So it was really about getting creative and not settling for the lowest hanging fruit, and valuing how we could maintain impact, and then also having a realistic expectation of what that impact could look like. And pleasantly, because I've checked back in with these clients later on, because it's going to be something we'll have to consider as we move into the future. But we've had really positive results. Nonprofits who have been blown away by, the amount of impact they were able to have with their event that they didn't think they would have because it was virtual. And I think it's because we went the extra mile to position programming the way it was to draw people in. And I think that's going to be key as we move into the future too.
Absolutely. And Phebeit, tell us about some creative ways and innovative way your company has serviced decorating events. Looking at your social media, you have beautiful decor, the way you were decorating. But I know with some of the events that are happening, corporate events, social events, talk to us about creative ways that your company has serviced, and what have you been doing?
Thank you. When COVID first hit and everything completely stopped, I was like, I still got to pay the bills. I still have this overhead. I have to think of ways to bring some money in here. And so we did have to become innovative and think outside the box. And first, what we started to do was bring events to the client right at their home. We felt my heart just hurt for the high school seniors, especially because they were missing their rite of passage. So we would do curbside events, and I do this beautiful premium draping right at their curb. Now, when you're decorating outside, of course, you have to do things a little differently. You have to secure everything with weights because you're fighting with the elements. And I'm not just talking rain. The wind can really take something like a sail. So we had to creatively think how we could celebrate people. And so we brought our indoor decor outdoors. And also other ways that we did with events. Event venues, as I said, have changed. We're decorating homes now, transforming spaces. A whole living room doesn't look like a living room because we've created to be a wedding ceremony now. So just doing things like that, thinking outside the box, learning how to drape tents. I spent a lot of time during the COVID when there was all this downtime in a warehouse, in my showroom, just creating over and over, transforming one space differently every Wednesday. And I called it a Wow You Wednesday. So every Wednesday I'd come out with a new design, not knowing why I was creating these designs, just that I needed to do something, I needed to work. So people start seeing these designs on my social media. Next thing I know, I get a call. Can you do this design for me at my curbside? Yes, I can. So I'm able now to create what I created in my showroom outside. So that's one way that, I kind of was innovative in using my design skills outside the box.
And I think you bring a really great point of just being innovative and taking the time just to think about what you were doing and then how you can transform that into what we can do right now. And I think that's, something that everybody in no matter what industry they're in, they should be doing, at this moment, thinking innovatively. Talking about spaces, Tracey, you guys have the Lansing studio. How are you guys taking that space and letting the creatives know that here's a space for them to social distance, to, host different things?
Yeah, so the great thing about the space is it's about 1,000 square foot room, and it's nice and it's large and it's open, and it's commonly used by photographers. And so when you rent the space, it's yours. It's not like another renter is going to be using it at the same time as you. So whatever safety parameters you need to set up for you and your client, or if you're hosting a small event in here, you have the freedom to do that. And so it ensures that you can create an environment that's going to be best for you, your guests, or your clients. And so what's really cool about the space is it's a resource that exists here in Lansing that we haven't had for a very long time, that a lot of people have had to travel to Ann Arbor or have had to travel to Grand Rapids or Detroit to find those types of spaces. And we're really just trying to get the word out that, hey, something affordable and really cool exists right in our city. And people have just really latched onto that and have been so excited about not having to, drive an hour to find the resources they need. We have the space, and we also have the tools in the form of an entire rentable library of equipment where people can create their best work and create their best memories in this space. And so it's just been a delight to share that for people and make it affordable.
Absolutely. And, as the weather is approaching, Stephanie, are you seeing more people hosting their meetings outside on the patios? Can you talk to us a little bit, about Lansing? There's some beautiful patio spaces, utilizing those for hosting meetings. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So as we've kind of talked about, there's definitely no such thing as a traditional meeting anymore. Outdoor meetings have been really popular. And I think that's kind of the really neat thing in all of this is just to see how creative the venues have gotten with their space. And, so popular, in fact, that the Greater Lansing CVB has a whole not a website, but a whole page dedicated just to, outdoor venues. And you can go and find a list of all the different venues in the Greater Lansing area that have the outdoor space. And It's very interactive, so you can see, if it's just a small patio for 10 people, or if they can host a few hundred people, and just, go to their website directly to see more. But those are definitely, I think people the venues use the downtime over the last year to rent those tents, to get the igloos, and, definitely we want to take advantage of the warm weather this summer, but, they were prepared too for this fall and winter when the weather wasn't as favorable. They were still, encouraging people to get outside, but we're definitely seeing that a lot for sure.
And the Conventions Bureau does a really great job. They have programs where people can get to know more about Lansing, the CTA program. Can you just talk to us a little bit how people can get involved just to know more about the city? So like if they are in the event industry, they can get to know more about what is going on within their space.
Yeah, so thank you for mentioning that. The Certified Tourism Ambassador Program we've had for several years now, and it was brought to our community specifically for the front level employees at hotels and restaurants, but it became so popular that we have people in every industry that's getting that. And right now it's a virtual class. We're hoping to get back in person really soon, but it's a 4-hour certification, and essentially it just gets you familiar with the greater Lansing area. So you know the restaurants and the shops and the museums that are there. And then it just really opens up your network too, to everybody else in the community. One of my favorite things is once you're certified, you then get invited to several different events that we do throughout the year. And obviously the last year our events have been virtual, but in the past, and then hopefully very soon, we, always host our events, usually quarterly, and they're at different venues or restaurants in the greater Lansing area. So it's just another way of getting out in the community and seeing what's there, seeing those hidden gems, and then just networking with people in the community too. And then we're membership based too at the CVB. So if anyone is ever interested in growing their business even more, our memberships are super affordable. And then one thing that might be a benefit to a lot is once you're a member of the CVB, you then get access to our convention calendar. And although it's not huge right now, it will be very soon. I mean, the events, we're going to have a lot of events next year. It's going to be hard for meeting planners to find space in Lansing because people are pushing things to the fall and to next year. But it gets you access to the calendar, and contacts of who the meeting planners are. So then you can use that to reach out to them and, find out if you are what your marketing might be a benefit for them. So a couple of different ways we'd love to be able to help out.
Absolutely. And, I took the CTA program as well, and it's a really great program. And it really did help my business because it helped me understand a little bit more about Lansing, what spaces are here, the history of Lansing, the venue spaces. And so it really broadened my horizons. And there's one more thing I want you to talk about too when it comes to the programs. You guys have the Safe Pledge going on right now. Letting folks know that Lansing here, where the hospitality is playing it safe. Can you talk to a little bit about that?
Yes, definitely. So our hotels and venues have taken the Greater Lansing Safe Pledge, and that basically just means that they have safety protocols in place to hosting meetings and events. I mean, again, only 25 people right now, but they have done so much and they're ready. And if tomorrow we were able to get, 100 people plus into a meeting room, there's no doubt that they can do it safely. I wanted just to kind of mention a couple of things that they're doing specifically. Hand sanitizing stations everywhere. You see a lot of stickers on the floor, showcasing the 6 feet distance, specifically when you're, checking in at the hotel, the front desk. Some of the hotels have like a sticker seal, on the door, letting you know that no one's entered the room after it's been cleaned. You see plastic around the remote controls and guest rooms. And then specifically to meetings, buffets are probably a thing of the past. If your group's small enough, chances are the hotel staff can serve you directly. But we're seeing a lot of like box lunches now where it's just like a really quick grab and go, and people are being staggered dismissals, for those breaks and lunches. And so I just want to, say when you are ready to host a meeting and work with hotels, just double check with them on what their COVID protocols are, they already have so many in place. I know some meeting planners specifically, they're wondering, do we do the temperature checks? Do we have to have a separate staff, looking and helping mandate, making sure people are wearing their masks over their nose, and just definitely collaborate with the hotels and venues, because a lot of them already have the staff and the resources in place, and they're already, they're ready to do that for you. But we're ready for sure. Those meetings.
That's really wonderful to hear, and it brings people to be comfortable too.
Mhm.
And so speaking of, corporate events, Rod, tell us a little bit about some of the virtual event parties that you have hosted, as a DJ virtually. I know in the corporate industry, a lot of, holiday parties had to, people either canceled them, rescheduled them, or went virtual. And I know you have hosted a couple of some virtual corporate parties. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so going back when we talked of the events and parties per se last year, that opened the door for a lot of things to happen. A lot of people watched, and I really, I'll take it on this spin that when you're doing something, you tend to forget, or you should forget, about what you're doing it for, because if you focus too much on that, then people won't see, people won't understand. But if you just do it out of your heart, I felt like a lot of people saw that. A lot of people, a lot of companies saw me perform, having a good time. So fast forward to this year, corporate events, large sororities, 3,600 people, 4,000 people, small groups, 20, 10, business networking. I became the cocktail hour, or the happy hour, or just the event director, to have fun, to take the boring Zoom, boring Google out of the event and make it more of an entertainment, having quizzes and trivia and just connecting with everyone on every level. It turned into, okay, let me find out more about this company. And then the networking behind that, the genuine networking, not a business opportunity, started to happen. And it's been a great roller coaster. It's shooting up, it comes down, but the connection with people, as you're having a conversation, and I'll try to give a real quick example. One of my near and dear companies, not to be biased, but child and family charities. With that being said, I've done live events. I've done virtual events. I just did an event with a boating squadron association for Michigan. I've met people and they say, hey, we should talk to him about this event. And this is literally happening at the beginning of the event as they're talking about another event. Again, the being genuine and hosting and entertaining for these events has created a space where people don't feel so locked into their home. My job is to create that space of entertainment where people don't feel that way, that they really can take a step back, have a good time, listen to some music, have trivia, kind of dig into their personal lives in a fun way, and just have a good time. So that's what it's really looked like on a corporate level, from groups that are 5 people to 3,000, 4,000 people.
That's amazing. And with mental health, it's such a critical factor during this pandemic. Do you think music is really imperative during this time? And what are some fun ways your company, Rod, has put together virtual events that incorporate the community listening together to music?
So without music, you can't really live. I feel like when things are silent, when things are quiet, kind of like this call sometime, at a certain point, would love to play a 2-minute breakout of music. It creates the space in the brain to be active, to get up, to have a good time, and to lose that mental thought of, okay, I'm stuck here. We all know COVID's real. That's a reality, but we push it out the way for a moment and we really try to focus on you as the person, the community, listening, and having a good time was the focus throughout every event, no matter what, no matter if it was just a group, it was a personal level. I think the community will change and things will go somewhat back to normal, but the need for having these events still is going to happen. So that's what I'm here for. From anything that changes, anything we do, and everywhere we go, my job with the community is to be there, to be able to be that entertainment, for those type of groups.
Absolutely. And so going back to virtual events, Tracey, tell us about virtual events, and do you think they're here to stay?
You know, I think Stephanie said it earlier, the word hybrid, that's a really accurate representation. I mean, there are some businesses that serve especially vulnerable demographics, and they're going to be a lot slower to go back to in-person events than other businesses that don't serve different demographics. And, you know, there is a value to virtual events because it just expands your footprint. And so, you know, the connection that we're able to have in person is never going to be one-to-one matched on a virtual event because that's just so powerful and it's so in the moment. And so I think people will absolutely be anxious to get back and to be together. But, you know, when businesses or perhaps even people having weddings, I can absolutely see a virtual component, a live stream component living in that space for sure. So I think there's room for both. Absolutely.
And talk to us a little bit about hybrid. Hybrid, you know, we're hearing a little bit of, but I know it's going to be the future. Can you tell us a little bit about how hybrid is inclusive and just talk to us about the benefits of hybrid?
Yeah, I mean, hybrid certainly takes a certain infrastructure to create and to make it really good. You know, so it's really reliant on having the right technology to make that a meaningful experience for your virtual audience, especially if you're going to have an in-person event and you're going to be documenting that event so that way someone can experience it virtually as well. You know, this is easy because we're all at our computers and we're all kind of experiencing the event in the same way. The tricky thing with hybrid later on is you have two of these experiences happening at the same time. And so how do you deliver that message to your virtual audience without them feeling like they're being left out and that they can still be included? Like Rod talked about, I love the extra mile that you go to just make people connect in that meeting. And that's going to be important when we move into a hybrid situation as well. So I think it's just going to take a little bit more forethought and the right technology and the right planning. But that's what honestly makes everyone on this panel, I think, even more valuable. We can take the expertise that we've learned throughout this pivot and the lessons from that. And I think we're going to be able to find creative solutions for our clients as we move into the future. So I think it's, to round it out, I think it's a win for companies to be able to do both because it ensures that the people that want to attend your event and interact with your brand or, you know, whatever can do that.
You know, Ashlee, I'll say this really quick with regard to what Tracey just said. I would love the better technology, but I will say this, 10-10-20 last year, Crown Plaza's only wedding in 2020, I was able to do American bride and an Egyptian groom. His family from Egypt could not come over. We were able to utilize an iPad. Now, again, I would love a better technology, but we were able to pause, create a background of their name, and then move on to the next item. You know, the camera would be on the dance floor waiting for them to arrive. After that dance happened, we faded out to a screen that was a picture of them. And I let the gentleman know, okay, we're going to be going into the speeches. And we actually just showed up kind of there. Now, I would love a seamless. It'd be fantastic to have a better technology of something that is very seamless, which will require a lot more cameras and things like that. But being hybrid, it's got to happen. It's got to happen that way. Sorry.
Absolutely. Oh no, feel free to jump in, guys, too. You know, hybrid is the future, and the benefit about hybrid is it will incorporate venues as well to be a part of the experience. So venues are not going to be left out. Not only that, it's more broad. So you're going to get more attendees or more family that couldn't be there to be there and see it virtually or still gain that experience. So there's a lot of inclusivity when it comes to hybrid. And speaking of hybrid with venues and stuff like that, I want us to really talk about, you know, the tables and chair rentals. Phebeit, can you talk to us about vendors that you've worked with who are in the table and chair rental services? And what are creative ways people can still utilize their services? You know, I've seen you also have a studio space in your place where you have photographers come in and take photos. And then there's other events that you've been doing. How can people still utilize the tables and chair rental services?
Yes, I'm also in the table and chair rental services. I specialize with Shivari chairs, which is an upscale chair. And usually they're used in a indoor venue. With all the outdoor venues, we're allowing Shivari chairs to now be placed outdoors. And so it's an upscale look. You can still get an elegant look for your event by using these Shivari chairs. Now, some of my other associates who rent regular folding chairs and maybe some of the padded chairs, it would be great to host outdoor movies, like have big screens, and you're able to rent the chairs and socially distance and have that type of event. The curbside events, tables and chairs can still be utilized, long as we're socially distanced and we're doing things safely. That's what's most important. We want to be able to celebrate milestone events, weddings, but do it safely. And so tent rentals are big right now. If you try to rent a tent at the end of in the middle of the summer for an outdoor event, they're going to say nothing's available. So you want to start renting these things early because people still are trying to celebrate their graduates. They're trying to celebrate all the milestone events. And as long as we're having the sanitizing stations and we're doing things safely, we can utilize these items and we can support these businesses.
Yeah, and that's the number one thing is, how can we support, but how can we do everything safely? And speaking of safely, Stephanie, what are venues doing right now to keeping things, hosting things safely? And what are they thinking about for the future as well?
Well, I kind of touched on some of them earlier. It's really just working, the hotel or venue is working directly with, the meeting planners on what they already have in place, what the meeting planner is looking for. A big question has been, do you require people that are attending the meeting to be vaccinated? That's a huge question right now that no one can answer. And, I've been on a couple of calls with attorneys and they say, not really, you shouldn't require that. It's not illegal to do so, but, having those health screenings though ahead of time and doing temperature checks. I've heard of some groups that have them, 3 times during the day, but every group is so different and every group, is going to require something different based on the demographic of who is coming, and so I just can't state enough just to work with the hotel directly on what they have specifically set up and implemented already, because the hotels want to host the meetings and they know they can do it safely. The biggest thing in the or in the meeting space alone is just having everybody sitting 6 feet apart. And, where you used to be able to pack in 100 people to a room, now you can only do about 30 people if you're lucky, just depending on, the dimensions of the room. A lot of seating is going to like the 1 person per 6 foot table, kind of all facing the front to a speaker, but that's where you can get them, people spread out the most. Some people are meeting at round tables, they'll put 4 or 5 people at a round table, but even that, is a little too close for comfort for people. So you're seeing a lot of the 6 foot tables being used for sure.
Absolutely. And one of the things too, I'm seeing more of our boxed lunches, when people are, catering companies are looking more into the box type feel of things or things that are more covered when it comes to the food. I don't even know if the buffet style is going to be as popular anymore. Different types of technology that could come in place. I know people are using the sneeze guards when it comes to buffet style approaches. And so with that, let's talk a little bit more about utilizing spaces like the studio spaces. And I want to talk a little bit about photographers. When folks are using, and this might be a question for Phebeit and Tracey, when people are using your guys' studio space, what are the photographers saying within their industry, and what is it looking like for them?
Yeah, so I think you know, that industry was absolutely shaken, just like a lot of the other, especially wedding specific industries were shaken. You know, these photographers went from having a full calendar of weddings to seeing their pipeline dry up with you know, couples rescheduling, and these are people that have bills to pay. These are businesses that they run. And so what's really amazing about a space like this and having it be as large as it is and easily, you know, distanced the way that it is, it gave photographers a space to shoot indoors when the weather isn't nice in Michigan, and they didn't feel like they had to sacrifice because of that. It was it's a great aesthetic. We've got a lot of great furniture behind me. I don't know if you can see. You know, so we're giving them the tools to make that experience with their clients not feel like they're sacrificing. You can have family photos in here. You can have professional headshots done in here. So we saw a lot of photographers pivot to doing mini sessions where they book the studio the entire day and they load it up with a lot of different clients. And so they can have that impact, at least financial impact, that they would from their weddings and supplement that income, which is so important. And it honestly, it's really humbling to be able to serve people in this way. In my other business with Cold Box, I work a lot with larger companies and brands, and I always wanted a way to connect with my community on just a more intimate level. And so being, especially the creative community, because we're in that space, and having conversations with people and showing them this space and seeing them get honestly emotional about being able to have something like this to just do the thing that they love doing has been the greatest pleasure. So it's been great.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Tracey. A lot of the photographers that I work with don't have a studio spaces. They shoot on location. And so with everything coming to a complete halt and me being able to open up my space for them to come in, they were just very, very pleased because they don't have to create anything, because I have backdrops, I have props, I have different rooms that they can utilize. And so they don't have to just stay in one spot. A lot of my photographers work outside most of the time with their wedding, and then they're bringing people into already beautiful rooms. You know, now they can bring a client into my space and they can already have a beautiful room and they can shoot, just bring their lighting, and it's been good. Like she said, it is very humbling to be able to help. And I'm happy that that we offered this opportunity for them. And it didn't start out as an opportunity for photographers. I actually opened it up for the young people to do, you know, the Facebook and the Twitter and the TikTok. TikTok is really big. So I offered it for these kids to come into the studio with the big throne chairs and do these great TikTok things, you know. And the photographers saw this and they wanted to be able to bring their people in. So I'm glad that it's working out.
That's a really good idea and a really cool idea. I know TikTok has been one of the popular social media platforms, so that's really good to hear, and actually an idea. And so for those who are listening onto this live as well, feel free to type in any questions that you have for the panelists in the comment section, and we'll make sure to answer those as well. Let's talk about more about the virtual, and because I think that's kind of, you know, a lot of folks are using more of the virtual components right now. Let's talk a little bit about the marketing side with virtual and how it can brand a program or a meeting or an event. And can we talk a little bit about that? And maybe Tracey, that's more in your realm.
Yeah, so it's just funny because, you know, I'm used to guiding and educating clients. I'm not an event planner on my own. But I tell stories for a living. I think of messaging. And so it was really interesting to kind of pivot in a space of taking what we know about this side of the world and then applying that to creating programming for events. And so I think some of the greatest lessons that came out of that is, first and foremost, it's a big ask in the world that we live in for people's time and attention. And people are not very generous with those types of things, you know, and it's just the product, you know, it's a result of the world we live in and instant gratification and such. And so to achieve that, we had to be really intentional about what that programming was, and then what were going to be those elements that was going to maintain someone's attention the entire time. And then, as Rod touched on when he was talking, how do we get people engaged? So they're not just watching and being entertained, but they feel like they're a part of the event, because that's the point of events, is to connect with other people. And so, you know, exploring what platform are we going to feed the video to, so that way we could drive that engagement, was really important. And so it was having a lot of conversations like that, choosing the right technology, filming the right programming, deciding what was going to be live. Do we want to do anything pre-recorded? What did that look like? And what was the overall branding of that? That was important. The second thing I think will be a great lesson out of this is, you know, when you're planning an in-person event, I think everyone's used to giving themselves adequate time to plan for that, because there's a lot to do. I don't know if the same concept was applied to virtual events. I think there was an assumption that it's just easier. But the truth is, if you're going to go about it in a way that's going to actually drive impact, you have to give yourself the space and the resources to do it well, because when you do, it does pay off and people notice. Because it's really easy to just say, well, we'll just do it on Zoom and it'll just be what it is and it's virtual, you know. But the feedback that my clients were able to get from their members or from their clients when they did go that extra mile, especially in a world that we live in right now and what we're going through, people notice that and they appreciate it. And the dividends that that's going to pay for that brand is much more than maybe the donation that someone made. To be memorable to someone is truly priceless. So those are kind of two big things I think that I learned and will be helping my clients with moving forward for sure.
That's a good point. And I also want to touch a little bit about business travel. Stephanie, what does business travel look like? And are people traveling again for meetings? And what are some best practices for when it comes to business travel for events and meetings?
So the national trend is definitely, you know, people are traveling again. I mean, I'm hearing that, you know, airlines are adding more flights and more adding more airplanes. So that's really reassuring to hear. I've been on calls with people from other convention and visitors bureaus across the United States, and it's, you know, interesting to hear, you know, Texas is having, you know, 17,000 people in their convention center for an event. And you know, it's just a little jealousy on our end, you know, because we can't hold those events. But it is reassuring knowing that other parts of the U.S. are traveling again, and people are starting to travel. You are seeing more in-person events, even smaller, you know, right now. But so many people, so many meeting planners that we are talking to are, you know, they're optimistic for the fall, and that's reassuring knowing that people are still wanting to travel even yet this year, you know, as more vaccinations roll out and people feel more comfortable doing so. I know that that's a really exciting thing for anybody that's attached to the meeting industry at all to be able to meet this year. You know, there are some groups that have said we're not hosting any more in-person events this year. Like they're going to all, you know, starting next year in 22, we will look at it. But right now, the virtual thing is working, and that's what we're going to do. So luckily, there aren't a lot of that. I mean, it's a lot of pent-up demand. Even though meeting planners know that hosting a hybrid meeting is double the work because they're having to essentially plan two events. You know, they're hosting one in person and then one virtually. You know, they have the resources like Coldbox that can help it go off with a hitch virtually. But then, you know, hosting an in-person event is second nature to them. So that is really exciting. And so some best etiquettes, you know, just for everybody to keep taking care of themselves and boost up their immune systems, you know, whether it's the vaccine or not, or, you know, just, and then just making sure you have all those safety, you know, the things we've been doing for a year, you know, staying 6 feet apart and sanitizing and as far as, you know, working with the hotel, just seeing what they have in place already. It's funny that there was such a short demand of hand sanitizer for so long, and now you see it everywhere. You know, I've had the pleasure of going to several different hotels in our community. Meeting planners are doing site visits, so I love that. I love getting out and seeing firsthand what hotels are doing. And, there's hand sanitizers everywhere, and there's the stickers on the floors, and they're doing everything that they should, to make people feel comfortable. And I think I take it for granted, especially because I'm in the industry, but, people who have been sitting at their home, for over a year, they don't realize that, what hotels are doing, and even airlines. I've flown a couple of times and I felt so safe because of all the safety protocols that they put into place. So it's just really reassuring, and, seeing what the industry is doing.
It's a lot of great information there. And so before we end our live session here, I want us just to take a few minutes, if you guys wouldn't mind, and just tell us what you think the future in your industry is going to look like when this is all said and done and we're back to, I don't know what that looks like, a new normal. Can you just guys maybe just from what you guys have experienced and how you guys have pivoted and innovated, tell us a little bit about what you think the future holds for your specific industry. We can start from Rod, Phebeit, Tracey, then Stephanie.
So for myself, I see smaller weddings until we get to the new norm. Smaller weddings, hybrid weddings, being able to connect with those virtually that can't make it to the wedding, and we can broadcast out to them, and the smaller groups. I'm seeing and foreseeing weekday weddings. I have a Wednesday wedding, I have a Thursday wedding, and I have a Tuesday wedding this year. They're going to be very small, and they're in small towns. So I do see that happening. That's where I see our industry going: entertainment, DJ, and things like that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I see a lot of micro weddings, hybrid weddings, hybrid events, a lot of backyard transforming decks and barns, still celebrating in barns. That's a bit. Barns are big venue spaces now anyway, but now regular folks are using their barns and their backyards and tents, a lot of tents. I'm hoping we go back to a normal, but I don't foresee a normal. I foresee no longer 400, 500 weddings, more like 25 to 100 people wedding. Maybe we can get up to 100 in some of the outdoor events. It's a whole new world, guys. And so with me, it's all about making that experience perfect for the client and making it personal and making it memorable with the details. So that's where I see me going.
Yeah, I just see I see a world where there's more options, which is really cool actually, because it's more inclusive than it's ever been. And so for companies, I think that for companies that are doing virtual events, I think that into the future there's going to be a need to continually bring that to the next level. So that way people are still paying attention and people still feel like they're being engaged with. There's a lot of Zoom fatigue out there. So it's, how do we break through that wall and make sure that those can be still impactful? And that's really going to require taking that to the next level. And then as we move into more in-person events and we want to adopt this hybrid approach, it's really just going to be figuring out how do we honor making the in-person a really good experience and then also making that a good experience for the viewer while both are happening at the same time. And it's really just going to require the right infrastructure. Streaming something with one view on an iPhone or an iPad just isn't going to be enough if you want to drive the impact that you want. You're going to need a system where you can have multiple camera feeds at one time and switching between them and then cutting to a pre-recorded video so you can eliminate any dead time if the event itself is switching. So it's going to take a lot more planning. But again, if we want to make sure that we can expand our footprint, the payoff of that is an expansion of impact. And so it's worth, working with the right experts to help you in that process. And I think, the role of a meeting planner, man, I have so much respect for what you guys do and the lessons the world that you had to jump in with figuring out what a virtual event looks like and the technology and all that kind of stuff. You are just going to become so much more valuable as we move into this hybrid approach because you already have the in-person thing down. You've learned so many lessons from the virtual. And I think folks like myself putting on the actual production are going to really need to lean on people like you to just make that seamless. So that's what I see.
Couldn't agree more, Tracey. You know, meeting planners have, for several years, it's crazy to know this, but they've been in the top 5 of the most stressful jobs out there. And just when I think my meeting planner friends couldn't be more stressed out, than COVID hit, you know, and I'm like, oh, you know, just total props for everything that they're doing and making it work. So yeah, it's going to at least be a couple of years before the industry, the hospitality industry, comes back for sure. The word that comes to mind for me is flexibility. That is what I've seen so much of, from, you know, the conversations that you have with the venues all the way down to contracting. I mean, the contracts have completely changed. The wording, the clauses, you know, attrition clauses where you used to be held accountable for 80-85%, you know, for the food and the counts, you know, those are all being negotiated. So just the flexibility in general is what I see our future doing for sure, and already has.
Well, wonderful. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time today just to talk a little bit about your industry and the ways that you guys have innovated as well, and the trends that you're seeing. So thank you for being with us here today. And here, everyone, you have a panel of experts in the events and meeting industry advising on the future of trends and events and meetings. And so we encourage you all to host your events and meetings safely, and think of the experts that are on here as well as when you do that. And then think of also doing those safely. And as we continue to see other different new avenues as we're hosting these events and meetings, and continue to also follow the CDC guidelines and your local and state departments as well. And so I just want to take the time to thank you guys again for being on here today, and thank you for the Lansing Marketing Hackers for having us and talking about this critical, imperative topic with meetings and events, as it's has really took a shift with the pandemic happening. So thank you, everyone. And I think we're going to have Julie and Ann and Paul come back to end the show.
Yeah, look at it. Oh, we were like a whole huge family for a moment. Ashlee, thank you so much. This was such an incredibly insightful panel. Ashlee, thank you for moderating this. And thank you to all of our experts who took time out today. Those of you who are still tuned in, take a moment and follow all of these pages. You've got on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, check them out. Such great information being offered today. Make sure and give them some love, and then keep following them for additional information. Found this so insightful. Ashlee, thanks again. And Ann, thank you to you and to Symposia Labs for sponsoring. Paul, it was good to see you. We will see everyone back here in 2 months for our next event. So make sure to, if you don't already, follow Lansing Marketing Hackers on Facebook, and we will post our next event soon. We'll see you all then.